Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. And I'm wondering about the meaning of the word compensation. Former Red Sox general manager Theo Epstein is now the acting and forever Cubs general manager, and the Red Sox have nothing. Not a deep dish pizza, not Matt Garza, not a bucket of baseballs. But the good news is the Red Sox fate's now in the hands of Bud Selig, former used car salesman and longtime commissioner of baseball. Great.
You know what I feel about Theo Epstein. I think the Red Sox should give Chicago something for signing him and getting him out of Boston. He's been a complete disgrace. I've never, ever seen a general manager make so many bad moves over a 4-year period that he did. It's almost a disgrace. And he's making $3.2 million for, that's 5 years. He's making over $16 million, Ron. It's really a complete disgrace.
Well, and the big issue is the Red Sox are now behaving like a small market team, signing legions of stiffs for low-budget contracts. We'll go over that later. But I don't know what the Red Sox are going to get. Probably not going to be Brett Jackson or Garza or anything more than, a high draft choice or something like that.
But I really believe the worst move, one of the top worst moves in the history of sports was signing Crawford. And then I told you before the season started last year, Crawford, $20 million, and Gonzalez, $24 million, letting Beltre go and letting Martinez go, paying double the money for those two guys and giving up your 4 top prospects on top of it was a terrible move. And Crawford, a fast, pretty good outfielder playing left field at Fenway, and a good base runner playing at Fenway 81 games where they're not stealing bases because you have power hitters coming up behind you and you don't want to get them thrown out in the bases. Ron, I actually believe I know more than Theo. Well, and there's thousands of Red Sox fans that know more than him, and he's making $3.2 million a year.
Well, I don't know much, but I do know what Victor Martinez is going to have for statistics this year. He's going to be 0 for 0, 0 home runs, 0 RBIs, as he blew out his knee and has an ACL. So, that could have happened anywhere with the Red Sox too. But I'm more concerned about the Red Sox addition. They think that 10 dimes equals $1. Well, that's sort of true, but if you put a dime on the pitching mound up against $1, most of the time the dollar is going to win. And the Yankees went nuclear last week with the da-da move of Pineda and Kuroda, and the Red Sox have got guys you never heard of. Aaron Cook, Justin Germano, Vicente Padilla, Carlos Silva. Sounds like a bunch of drug dealers.
Yeah, but look what the Yankees had to give up for Pineda, though. They had to give up one of the best young hitters in baseball, in Montero, and I told you what I think. The Yankees could have the top 5 pitchers in baseball, and they still wouldn't win the World Series because they all stink in the clutch. They don't have one clutch hitter in that team. Teixeira is the worst clutch hitter in the history of baseball, hitting under 200 3 years in a row after hitting more than 35 home runs a year and averaging over 110 RBIs. He gets in the playoffs. He can't do anything. Doesn't hit against the Red Sox. A-Rod is useless. They needed a big hitter in the middle of that lineup, and they traded him away from Pineda when they have 2 great prospects in the minors. And they signed Garcia, and Hughes is going to be big this year. They had enough pitching.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Montero. Certainly, Pineda, he had a great first half and made the All-Star team. The second half, his ERA was over 5, and that's pitching in the Grand Canyon that's Seattle. Now, I think the guy's got a great arm. He doesn't have to pitch great baseball with the Yankees to win. He's a solid prospect, and he's only 22, 23 years old. But, I mean, the guys the Red Sox have picked up, I'm not impressed.
But the Yankees could have went Kuroda, Saunders, Oswalt, give them maybe $10 million for a year, so they do. They had Hughes. They're paying Burnett the big money. They have Nova. They have Sabathia. They have 2 great prospects in the minors.
Right.
And they give away one of the best hitters in baseball, a guy they needed in the middle of that lineup. I'm telling you, they do not hit in the clutch.
Yeah, they have 2 top prospects in the minors, Betances and Benuelos. Especially, I think Benuelos. It reminds a lot of people of Guidry. Just not a big guy, throws hard, live arm. It was a little bit wild, but as most young left-handers are. But, I understand where Yankee fans are coming from. If Montero becomes one of these, 35, 120, 300 hitters every year, then people are going to say, wow, that was tough.
Right. I don't know where these general managers are coming from, what they're thinking about. And then, and then the Red Sox. How are they going to give people money after you give Crawford $20 million? Then they just had to give Ellsbury $8 million in arbitration.
Well, to quote you, are you kidding me? Crawford gets surgery like this week? I mean, the spring trading starts in a month and he's having wrist surgery.
It really is. The Red Sox could be in tremendous shape right now. And really, I mean, Martinez gets hurt. I mean, you can't do anything about that. But they had a great setup. They had Beltre, who loved playing in Boston. Power hitter at Boston. Perfect hitter for Boston. A right-handed power hitter. What are they thinking about? It's unbelievable with Theo. I'll tell you, I don't even know if he even played baseball in his life. I think he reads books and says, okay, this guy's on-base percentages here. This guy's on-base percentage. And then he comes out with this other thing about defense. That's why they moved Ellsbury to left field and put Cameron in center. And then Ellsbury runs into Beltre and hurts his ribs. But imagine making that move. Cameron for Ellsbury.
Well, as of now, with your $180 million ball team, the Red Sox starting outfield is Mike Aviles, Jacoby Ellsbury, and either Ryan Sweeney or Darnell McDonald. And none of those guys beyond Ellsbury is exactly striking fear in the opposition's hearts.
Yeah, I just think, like I said, Theo Epstein, it was a disgrace the last 4 years. I've never, ever seen moves like he has made, starting with Julio Lugo, and from there, Drew was, I mean, when it comes down to it, Drew wasn't as bad as half of these guys.
Well, and they've got a lot of bad contracts they're left with. Matsuzaka will, at best, pitch half a year. Lackey, they get nothing from.
But you know what I'm telling you? I'm telling you one thing, though, Ron. Every year everybody says, well, to win the World Series, you need great pitching. Teams that get into the playoffs have pretty good pitching anyway. You need the clutch hitting in key situations. If you don't have that, I don't care how good your pitching is, you're going to lose a game because the other teams have good pitching. You're going to lose 3-1, 3-2, and that's what happens. That's what happened to Philadelphia this year.
Can't argue with you there. And money can't play. You can spend all the money in the world, and Texas clearly has gone that route, signing Yu Darvish, so 53 plus another 60, and now they're talking about signing Fielder. Yeah. So I don't know how much money that's going to run them. I don't know what their revenues are down there. It's inconceivable, really. Well,
they get the fans. I think they broke records the last 2 years, and they don't even know Hamilton next year's a free agent, I heard. So that's why they're thinking about Fielder. They got to make a choice. They were talking about that the other day. If they're planning on giving Hamilton the big money, then they won't sign Fielder.
I mean, would you rather have an athletic center fielder like Hamilton or a base-clogging big power hitter like Fielder?
Yeah, Hamilton, definitely.
Well, there's a lot more news with the Red Sox, too. Jason Varitek gets an invitation to spring training. I wonder if he's going to have to wear number 97 on his uniform or something like that. And they take the C off at the same time.
What's that all about, Ron? I mean, they don't want him on the team.
He's not going to be on the team. So, they're going to, try to make him a coach while he's down there. They clearly don't want him. They wouldn't have. They've just signed Salto Makia for, was it 2.5?
Yeah, and it's not guaranteed, they said. I don't know what they're talking about when they say it's not guaranteed.
No, I think it's always guaranteed. They got Shopik and they got Lavarnway, and if you put Varitek in front of them, you're just stealing young guys' playing time. We'll get back to young guys' playing time, too, because eventually we'll talk about the Celtics. And about the only thing interesting on the Celtics right now is watching the young guys.
That's right.
Okay. Then they're talking about signing Cody Ross. Cody Ross, a former Giants outfielder. Last year he had a mammoth 14 homers and an OPS of 730, which is lousy. But there's a lot of interesting arbitration news. Now, Ellsbury signed for $8.05 million, which seems like pretty good money, even if he did have almost an MVP year at his stage of his career. But a guy like Jeremy Guthrie. Now, most of you who are reasonably knowledgeable sports fans will say, Jeremy Guthrie, what team does he play on? What sport does he play? And the Orioles have offered him 7.5, and I guess he wants around 10. I mean, he's about a 500 pitcher at best, and that's kind of ridiculous money they're throwing around.
How many years does he have before he's a free agent? Probably 2 more years if it's that.
Yeah,
if
1
he's
or
looking
2.
for that type of money. Because Ellsbury, you got to figure if Ellsbury's still a couple of years away, because he'd be getting more money than $8 million.
But, I just heard the Orioles fans and one of their announcers, they're all crying because they feel like Baltimore is a one-trick pony. They don't have a baseball team there anymore, they say. They don't have a basketball team. All they have is football, so they should be allowed to win somehow, because if the Patriots lose this weekend, well, we can still watch the Celtics, we can still watch the Stanley Cup champion, spring training starts in a month, and poor Baltimore.
Well, Baltimore, I mean, look at this position they're in. I mean, they have the Red Sox, the Yankees, Tampa Bay with that pitching staff. They're always going to be good. Toronto's getting better and better. I mean, Baltimore, they're looking at it saying, we're going to have to spend like $50 million to even get close to a team like Toronto, and we still won't be able to compete.
So if you're the owner, then you just say, well, I'll just put that money in my pocket. Why should I spend the money?
That's right. I mean, he's got some talent there, but to play 18, 19 games against those teams every year, I mean, he's looking at that saying, what a position
Well, they
we're
beat
in.
the Red Sox 5 out of 7
Yeah.
down the stretch, but of course, you know, a lot of teams could have done that.
Have you heard anything about Wakefield?
No.
No, I think he's all done.
You know, I think he still wants to play, and there's been some talk about going to the National League. Let's see. Now, we haven't heard too much about A-Rod. If his surgery works out as well as Kobe Bryant, he might be something.
Hopefully he retires. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that something he decides, you know, well, he's still got almost $100 million coming to him.
He's got 6 years left on his contract.
He's useless to the team. He kills them. I mean, imagine these guys that are twice the player that he is now, watching him. You know, he's a cocky guy. He thinks he's the best player in the world. He's actually, most of the players in the league are better than him now. I bet you he's in the bottom 50%. He's really useless. You can't move on defense anymore. You can't hit. He's a 250, 260 hitter.
Well, he's a guy who drugs made. I mean, let's face it, the drugs made him who he is, and now he's an ordinary guy. The guy I really like on the Yankees, who is also up for arbitration, is Gardner. Now, the Yankees are offering him $2.5 million, and I think he asked for 3.2, something like that. But he's a really good player. He had 49 stolen bases last year. He's a terrific outfielder, very underrated player.
He led the team in on-base percentage. He should be leading off. I don't know why Girardi had him down in batting ninth, the second leadoff hitter.
Must be in Jeter's contract that he can lead off.
But he should be leading off. His on-base percentage was up in the high 380s. He's the best runner on the team. Put him first, Jeter second, Cano third, Granderson fourth, and Teixeira and A-Rod back down fifth and sixth. That's where they belong. I mean, during the year, Teixeira hits against weaker teams, but in the playoffs he doesn't. But Gardner should be the leadoff man. You put him in left field, he plays every game. Like Ellsbury. He's in that. He's not as good as Ellsbury. But,
offensively, but he's good. He's real good defensively.
But his all-around game, he's closer to Ellsbury than anyone else. He's even closer to Ellsbury than Crawford is, when you look at it.
Well, we'll see if, you know, Granderson had a fabulous year last year, and I don't know why he can't continue to play at a high level. Also, he's a very media-friendly, articulate, interview-friendly guy, so he's another good spokesperson to have out there. Good guy. Well, we'll be right back with our next segment.
On and off the court, Visionary Basketball Group delivers programs that empower players with skills for athletic and personal success. Our players undergo learning experiences that position them for positive lifelong achievement on and off the court. With a year-round training philosophy, BBG can assist you in reaching your full potential as a player with conditioning, basketball fundamentals, position-specific training, and skills and drills taught by the best coaches in New England. For more information, visit our website at visionarybasketball.com or drop into our new athletic performance center located at 152 Tremont Street, Melrose, Mass. VBG, complete your vision.
Welcome back. It's championship football weekend, and we have Lou, the football guru, with us here. Thanks, Lou.
I've been called worse. I've been called a fool. I guess why not call me a guru?
Well, Patriots go into Sunday's matchup with the Ravens with lots of momentum after beating Tim Tebow, who was seriously injured and could barely pick up his arm or move his legs or take a deep breath during most of the game, which is why the Patriots won by 35. But in a courageous effort, Tebow, aided by higher powers, did lead his team to 10 points. What is this? After the game, Tebow had major injuries during the game. It's like he had to have total body surgery after the game. Now his legacy's ruined. You know, I think he's a great guy. He has his priorities focused. He helps people who are sick, people who have had a lot of problems. That's great, but you still have to win the football
Plus,
game.
he set up the first game for the Patriots run. I mean, what a perfect match.
That was the dream, the dream. Hey, listen, AAA helps a lot of people too, when they show up on time. But you know something, that was the closest thing to a second bye week the Pats could have ever hoped for. I don't think that there's any way. One of my big things is Belichick. If he sees you a second time in a season, maybe it doesn't work with division rivals like the Jets sometimes, but I didn't think that he would go into that and allow Denver to run roughshod over him like he did the first time. They had 169 yards in the first quarter, that first game. And this time, the option wasn't working. They had guys there. Ninkovich played an incredible game. He looked like Brewski sometimes. The instincts, the nose for the ball. It was just great. It was the best thing that the Pats could have hoped for to set them up for the AFC Championship, I think.
Yeah, that was their best game plan of the season. The last 2 years, their best game plan. They shut down the running game. Their defensive line was very aggressive. The linebackers played well. The defense, I'm hoping that they're peaking.
Well, you do have to wonder, first of all, they had Sean Ellis in suspended animation for most of the season. Gerard Warren came back from the dead, and they got Spikes and Chung back. So they really had many more able-bodied players going into that game, and that had to make a difference.
I think there's something to be said for that. You could say, all right, have they developed, have they gelled? Guys coming back, guys starting to play better, guys are, you could say Belichick, the magic potion, maybe it's us drinking the punch, but I don't know. Maybe, yeah, they're starting to make plays. They're more familiar with the system. Maybe early in the season he asked them, all right, just make the tackle. Don't worry about yardage. We're going to keep them out of the end zone. It doesn't matter. Maybe that's the reason for the skewed stats, but are we all fooled into believing that because they just dismantled the Denver team? I guess let me play devil's advocate now. Do we say, all right, they could be peaking at the perfect time? And that it could very well be, but I don't know. It's not like
well, none of us can name 3 players on the Broncos defense even after watching the game, whereas the Ravens, have 2 surefire Hall of Famers and a lot of other really good players.
Yeah, but what I look at, the last 3 periods against Buffalo, they played their best defense, even though Johnson got canned because of the showing his inside shirt and the message. Happy New Year, I think he did. And then the tight end got hurt. But the last 3 periods, they were tremendous.
They were, and Buffalo's a good passing team. You got to give them, for their losing record, you got to give them credit. They're a formidable offense. But, the fact of the matter is, the Pats did play well, and they played well throughout that string. It's been how long since they lost or even, really been scared?
Well, and there's the subplot of the 2010 playoff matchup, and then people said, well, Brady was terrible, and true, but who did he have for receivers? Nobody. The second receiver was Julian Edelman that day. And after Welker had been hurt going into the playoffs, they didn't have Gronkowski and Hernandez. So it's a whole different team than 2010, particularly on offense.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the defense. I'm looking at that defense now, the way, Will Falk and Love, Gerard Warren, Ellis came in. You have Anderson, but they're all penetrating the line. They're coming in. At least they're in the face of the quarterback most of the time now. Quarterback's not stepping up, doing whatever he wants to throw the ball. I've seen that in the last 3 games. In the Washington game, I think they got 5 or 6 sacks in the Washington game. So what I'm hoping is that line keeps getting penetration on the quarterback. And if they do that against Flacco, he's going to have problems. I believe they can control any team's running game now, especially with Spikes in there, with Mayo, and you have Ninkovich and the times Fletcher. But Spikes, that's a perfect game for Spikes against a team that's a hard-nosed team that wants to run down your throat. And he had the perfect situation against Denver, and he's got a pretty good situation here against Baltimore because they're a physical team. That's his game.
Well, it's the name of the game. They have to control the running game. You got to plug up these gaps. You got to give them nowhere to run. You can't give, everybody has that lasting image of Rice first snap a couple of years
He's
ago.
not going to do that again.
They basically, it parted. It was like Moses was there, the Red Sea, and he just took off. I could have got an 80-yard run off that play. It was beautifully executed, but they just swatted guys out of the way and went right through. And, that wasn't the whole game. On defense, they came through and they were in Brady's face all day. And that's the thing that it's basically going to be, as far as I'm concerned, this time of year, it's about your line play. No one can run against you, and you have to keep your quarterback clean. And you look at the 4 teams left now, I think it doesn't come down to stats anymore where, the Patriots were, almost dead last against the pass, or, I don't know. Where were they lined up during the season? It's all kind of thrown out. It's these 4 teams left.
Right.
Right. Well, they were asking Belichick today about the Tuck Rule game 10 years ago, and he says, "What does that got to do with Sunday?"
And that's all he would say.
That's the right answer. It doesn't really matter.
But the key to me is not Rice running the ball, because I think they'll control him running the ball. It's him catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah,
he's leading the team in receptions. You don't want to get him into the open field. That's when he's going to cause problems. But they're game planning for that. Because that's the number. I imagine that's the key right there.
I just worry about teams with really good tight ends. It seems like the tight end, the Heath Millers of the world, can always run down the field like they're invisible. Maybe that won't happen anymore.
Well, another situation you have now all year long, especially the second half of the year, Chung wasn't in there, and McCourty wasn't playing safety.
Right.
So you had Hedebo in there, and you had Morris in there at times playing safety. You had Sergio Brown, who's doing a great job on special teams right now, but with McCourty and Chung back there now, they're 2 of the quickest players on the team. They both hit, and McCourty's tall. That's a perfect position for McCourty now. He's getting beat cornerback, but where he's free safety, he doesn't have to worry about that. Again, he's a hitter. He's quick. They're covering a lot of ground out there, and they're both going to make a lot of tackles Sunday.
Well, people are saying, well, they wasted a draft choice at the end of the first round because now he's a safety. Well, if you get a good safety late in the first round, that's not a bad pick.
A good safety is, in some ways, can be better than 2 good cornerbacks. Because if you got a guy back, come on, look at what Reed does for that team. He's as free a safety as has ever been. The guy, he doesn't play left or right. He plays both. He's all over the field. He's older too now.
But look at this situation for the Patriots now. Chung's in his 3rd year, and I believe Chung, when they let Matthews go, they not only got Gronkowski in that whole deal, but I think they got Chung, too, as part of that. And everybody's knocking Belichick for not taking Matthews, and he got Gronkowski, Chung, and I think Butler, but they cut Butler. But they got 2 real good players. And I look at that, and, you just look at it.
Matthews isn't playing this weekend.
No. But, everybody knocked him for that move, and look at the way it ended up. He's got the best tight end in football now, and he's got one of the top safeties in football.
Well, the dirtiest word in football now has become manager. If you say the quarterback's a manager, that means, he stinks. He doesn't lose the game for you. And that's what Flacco's being called. He's a manager. He's 49-23 in 70 starts. I think I've got Brady down as 125-37. Different situation, but if you can make Flacco win the game, that probably is a good situation for you.
I've seen him have some good games, though, Flacco, but I just think he's going to have problems against this defense. I really do. I think the Pats, I really believe they're peaking at the perfect time. I think they're solid. When you look at their defense now, they're not weak at the line. They're not weak at linebacker. They're not weak at safety. Where they're weak still is cornerback. But Arrington's just an average cornerback. But can he control Bolton, the receivers? They don't have the greatest receivers. And
well, Bolton's pretty good, and Torrey Smith is fast.
And
we haven't seen him enough to. Of course, probably be
Bolton's
30.
Not real quick though. But
yeah.
You know what it is? You need to make it so that you can't ask Arrington to cover a guy for 9 seconds. That's what it comes down to.
Moulton's looking. What's his name? Moore's looking pretty good too.
He is. He is.
He's physical.
Well, you do wonder that sometimes that, these young guys who are pretty athletic, who maybe can take some coaching, and say, Belichick says, I want you to do it this way. Just do it this way no matter what you think. And, okay, coach, I'll do it your way. Maybe some of them actually listen and turn out to be okay.
The ones that don't listen, they're not playing this weekend either, because that is one thing about Belichick. He knows what he knows, and there's a reason for his success on defense. And I'll tell you what the best aspect of Belichick has always been is it may not always be successful, because maybe he just doesn't have the horses sometimes. But he's going to take away the one thing that he knows. All right, this is what the Ravens want to do. They want to get the ball to Rice. Now, their game plan, they're not going in there. They don't want to get into a run-and-gun game with the Patriots. They want to try and run the ball, and if they can get it to him out of the backfield, you're going to put the best player on your team offensively. They're going to say, all right, you're going to get this ball, you're going to win it for us. Belichick knows that. He's going to do everything he can to keep that from happening. And so now, yeah, you put the game in Flacco's hands. So that's where, like I said, line play. We have to get at Flacco. We got to keep him uncomfortable. We have to keep Rice from taking over the game in any way, shape, or form. And then on defense, how old are the Ravens? Okay? I mean, whether their demise has been greatly exaggerated, they did finish near the top in defense. So you can say, you know.
Well, the classic example of what you're referring to is the 2001 Super Bowl when Willie McGinnis just absolutely killed Marshall Faulk. Faulk took so many bad hits. I mean, just try to get out of the backfield, wham. McGinnis probably, he got the least noticed but most valuable effort.
He hit him on every play. As a matter of fact, I think he went to the Gatorade jug to get some water and McGinnis flattened him. So that's what you got to do. And you know what? I think that the Pats are coming into that right now. I can see that's my, for a parallel. You know, they played pretty damn good in 2001. They didn't have the record that this team has, but they were, every week you saw something in that team.
Wasn't the other cornerback Otis Smith? I mean, he was an okay player, but
Otis he could get toasted at any given point, but he was very coachable, and Belichick loved him. You could see that you put Otis Smith back there and tell him play zone defense, the guy would catch it and Otis would tackle him because he could hit.
Yeah, I think he's the same as Arrington.
And
they're the same type.
Yeah, exactly. Otis Smith, though, I can think of a number of plays that he made, for instance, and that's what I think that this Pats team needs. They need this week and hopefully a couple of weeks after that. God willing, we're playing for the Super Bowl. You know, all that. They need the same thing. They need plays, you know, because Bill's going to put them in position. They're going to the film study, all of the above. He's going to show you this is what they're going to run. This is what they want to run. This is the way that they can beat us. So what are we going to do to stop it?
Well, the Ravens are going to try to keep the ball out of the middle of the field with the two tight ends and Welker. So that makes it incumbent on the mystery man, the man who's had more good games against Baltimore than probably any other team, whose name never comes up, Ocho Cinco.
And why hasn't it come up?
Because he hasn't done anything. But, you know, you never know. It could be his day. Every dog has his day.
I would not be surprised, because sooner or later, you know, there was always there's Welker in the slot, there was Moss on the outside, and then who else is on the other side?
Well, J.D. Drew hit the home run against Fausto Carmona, who happened to be in the news today. Did you see that?
No, what happened?
All right, Fausto Carmona is accused of impersonating another person. He's actually somebody else. I don't know, his name is like Rodriguez or something. And lo and behold, he's 3 years older than his stated 28 years. So once again, one of these Latin American guys is, in fact, 31 instead of 28. So I guess he's jailed for impersonating another individual.
Did he play Little League Baseball too?
But
yeah, I'll tell you this though. The one thing I can say about
Danny Almonte.
Yeah, exactly. I can say this though. You have the Giants. It's looking, I guess, not so much looking ahead, because I don't want to look ahead. Belichick wouldn't, and I won't either. I think the Giants-Niners matchup is very similar, because the Giants, you typically think of the Bill Parcells era Giants, they want to run on first down.
The Giants playing the role of the Patriots.
Yeah, they're going to run on second down, they're going to run on third down, and if it's 4th and 1, they're going to run then. This team, when you think about the stats, I mean, they were dead last in rushing yards per game. The Giants, the New York Football Giants, were dead last in rushing the ball. Eli Manning he was under 100 yards, less than 5,000 yards. So they followed, even though you wouldn't think it, they were a very similar team to Green Bay.
Well, they have outstanding wideouts in Nixon, Cruz, and a
Cruz, yes.
very good tight end in Ballard. You know, and they have a complementary running game, which, you know, if you try to take away the pass. So I agree, and obviously the 49ers forced 5 turnovers, which turned out to be the Saints' undoing.
And that's going to be interesting. I kind of want to see San Francisco win. That Giant game is going to be a tough game. I look for the Pats to beat Baltimore, and the Giants they're playing at a level now. I mean, they're playing at a level that they played at when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The only thing wrong with that is sort of the Niners have this kind of team of destiny stamp on them right now. They shouldn't have come back against New Orleans, but they did.
But will the Alex Smith, the first-round bust that nobody believed in, nobody believed in him before the game, they didn't believe in him during the game, and when he was in a shootout with Drew Brees, and no one still believed in him, and with a minute left, how many San Francisco 49ers fans were on their way out of the stadium when he scored that game-winning touchdown? Because I still don't think anybody believes in him. So does anyone believe he's going to show up again? And if he shows up again, will he show up in the Super Bowl? I mean, it's a tall order, but it's possible. It's happened before.
That should be a better game than the Patriot game. I mean, the Patriots, it's going to come down to how quick does Brady get into a rhythm. If he gets into a rhythm right away, if he gets into the flow of the game, the offense is moving, I think the Pats can blow them away.
No huddle.
I mean, if he doesn't get into the flow early enough, he's got to hope the defense plays as well as we think they can play to contain them. Because if it takes them a while, like it took them against Buffalo and Miami, to get the flow, and especially, that Baltimore's going to come at them. But I think the Pats, I mean, they usually come out with a good game plan in these big games.
I think they'll come out in no huddle in 5 wide.
They better not try to run. If they try to run twice and then put him in nice position.
I don't even want to see it.
O'Brien has done that in the past.
I don't think this is the week.
He's done it in the past where he comes out and he'll try to send a message and say we can run on you, and then before you know it, they're punting the ball.
This is the week. I think that if there's ever a time for Belichick to win the toss and not defer, I think it's you're home. The place is going to be fired up. You want to start quick. Why not start by taking the ball and just going right down and let the first time Flacco comes on the field, let him be down 7-0.
I don't think he'll take it. He'll still.
No, he won't. He'll punt it. That's why
I think
I hope that they win the toss.
I really believe he's getting a lot of confidence in his defense. I think the defense is going to come up and play great.
Well,
they're going to surprise a lot of people, I think. And that it depends on how long it takes Brady to get in the flow in that offense.
And I think the other thing is sometimes we view Belichick as this emotionless football geek. And I think behind closed doors, he's anything but. He understands what it takes. And we talk about this with our coaching. I tend to be focused on execution, and you tend to be focused on intensity and effort. And I think that Belichick can combine both. He may come out as a dour, boring personality to the media, but behind closed doors, I think he's a lot more into it.
If he was like that behind closed doors, his players wouldn't buy into it. It takes more than success. If you want guys to follow you up the mountain, you can't just be dour like that and say, no, trust me, follow me, look at my rings, follow me. You got to sell it. And I can guarantee, I agree with you. I think he is not that guy. He's just that guy to take the focus off of his team. I think in practice, I think, he knows how to talk to them. I think he knows how to communicate, and he gets them to buy into this whole thing.
Yeah, he's going to tell them how to win, what it's going to take to win.
Well, you get 47 guys showing up on each team who are basically almost on the edge of fury going out to the field. I mean, that's how bad they want to get into the Super Bowl.
But winning or not, though, you never ever see, like what's taking place with the Jets right now, is everybody calling out Sanchez. All right, they didn't win, so somebody's got to be blamed. Whose fault is it? All right, well, it's Sanchez. He doesn't practice hard enough or whatever. You'll never ever see the Patriots offense or a player from the Patriots who's traded to another team. It's very rare you hear them mouth off about Belichick or say that it's this fault or we did this or this is why. Because it hasn't always been Super Bowls. I mean, yeah, it's great that we won 3, but we also lost 1 and we didn't win in some other years.
Right. So I guess we'd call it clubhouse discipline. You get to be a problem. You're Hainsworth. You're gone before you're even potentially a problem. And even in departing, he really wasn't a problem. Ocho Cinco, he doesn't say anything right now. He hasn't done
Thomas
anything.
was the biggest pain in the neck for them. Delius Thomas.
Right.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people toe the party line. I love playing football. I love playing for this team. It's not about me. 6 touchdown passes. Yeah, there were a lot of great catches. The line was unbelievable. Brady's not putting the focus on himself.
And that's going to be a huge key, too. If Vollmer is healthy, Solder's going to be playing tight end at times. They're going to come out and and they'll try to punish him at times, especially if they get the lead. What you may see in the second half, if they get a pretty good lead, is they'll come out with Solder again.
But you know what's beautiful about it?
Take it
And
to 'em.
this is the amazing thing about the Patriots, though, is when I used to think three tight ends, I thought of the Joe Gibbs offense. He had that big line. He put three tight ends in there, and you knew that it was going to be just a bloodbath. They were going to run. The Patriots go to three tight ends, and there's so many different looks because you get two of them that run like wide receivers, and then you have another one now he's a lineman, used to play tight end in college.
You may see him catch a big pass. Who knows?
I wouldn't be surprised.
There was somebody
if you
on the
see
radio
that.
talking today. I don't know if he was a coach or a player. He said, "Well, you prepare for the Patriots a certain way. Say, okay, we got to cover Hernandez. Then he's in the I formation. Okay, fine. Well, all right, we'll cover him out of the. What, he's carrying the ball? What's happening here? I'm not supposed to go there." And they just do some unusual things to get people in positions where they can succeed.
My big worry is against real good defense is their ends cannot make space, and that's my big worry because you look at teams that aren't in anymore. Green Bay, you look at New Orleans when they send their receiver down. I mean, you talk about spreading the defense. The safeties are like 30, 40 yards downfield trying to cover them.
Well, my concern is the offensive line holding up. Just thinking about the Super Bowl in 2007.
But sometimes, I mean, the Pats had troubles against the Giants. They had trouble against Pittsburgh this year. They had trouble against Dallas because they bumped the receivers coming off the line of scrimmage. None of them can. I mean, Branch. I mean, he caught that pass because he really. I mean, the guy was right on him, and even a great receiver like Welker. I mean, he can't go deep. He's not going to spread out. So now, I can't believe Brady has done this, because when you really think about it, he doesn't have the space that these top quarterbacks like Rodgers and Breeze have. I mean, they got at least another 15 yards
You're right.
to deal with.
It's a 20-yard field instead of 35, and that is a concern. And there's a couple of things that I look at the Pittsburgh game, and I think Baltimore is capable of playing a similar game. And if anyone wants to know what my biggest worry is, it's exactly that. I think Pats have come long enough in the season to know how to overcome it, but who knows?
Right, and both teams and their video guys and computer guys have it, down and distance, best results, every, offensively and defensively. So that, it's kind of become like scientific warfare in offensive and defensive strategizing. But and when it comes down to Sunday, it's about who executes and who turns the ball over.
I'm just hoping the Pats can come out like they did when they blew the game in Indianapolis, when they came out and they had a 24-6 lead or something at half, or 21-6, and they ended up blowing the game. And then Indianapolis went to the Super Bowl and beat Chicago.
That was ring.
That's when Falk didn't get the first down. When
that was ring number 4. That was
yeah.
I think they were 18-3 or something. They were.
But I'm hoping their offense moves like that offense did.
So does Ridley get the call, or
No.
is he on the bench
He
now?
doesn't touch the football.
I wouldn't.
He doesn't touch it.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's limited. I'm wondering what Falk's role is going to be, because he's been so dependable over the years and so much a part of it, but yet, he's just been a shadow of himself with his knee. And you got Woodhead, who's another one. Last year he was such a big part. You think about this, what's everybody's role going to be? Is Woodhead, you're going to try and get it to him in a screen. You got your two tight ends. What are you going to do with them?
Well, that's one thing they haven't done all year, really, is throw screen passes.
No,
so,
it's been a lost thing.
You wonder if that's...
That's a tough team to throw screen passes.
Yeah,
again.
they got athleticism and speed on D, and they just basically, I think the biggest thing that the Pats can do is the no huddle. You got to get those guys. I mean,
Huffing and puffing.
get them huffing and puffing. Ray Lewis is
That's
not
what they
a
didn't do
young
against
guy.
the Giants. When they lost to the Giants, they didn't do it till the end, and they were all sitting on the sideline.
And you might have that happen again. History may replay itself.
So like we were saying earlier, against this type of defense, someone like Edelman or Ojo Cinco may come up with a big pass. I mean, really, when you think about it, because they're not going to really be concentrating on them.
I'll tell you what, they can't cover. That's one thing about the Ravens. They do not have good cornerbacks. So, I mean, if we did have, say, a Moss, a 2007 version of Moss, that would be a big concern for them. But the fact is, we do have a quick passing game. So if they can keep Brady, keep him clean for 3 seconds. Let him take the 3-step drop. Look.
Get someone
throw
downfield
dot.
a little.
Yeah.
Spread them out a little. Get them downfield. Get those linebackers to back up about 10 yards. If they're like 7 yards off the line of scrimmage, they're going to control us where we're not getting big gains, and that's going to be a key. But Brady's smart. I mean, they know what they're going to be doing right now. I mean, the one thing I always liked when they won the Super Bowl, he was so confident. I mean, just listen to him speak. He was so confident that they were going to be able to execute.
What about other news around the league? Peyton Manning?
He's not. They're going to sign him. He's not retiring.
Well, the Colts need to get something for him.
Well, give him the $23 million bonus, then trade him.
Can you trade him? That's the thing.
Well, you can trade him to the Jets for,
Anybody.
3 first-round draft choices and what else?
The Jets will give them everything they want.
The sun, the moon, and the stars.
But, he is a 35-year-old quarterback with a neck injury. I mean, as great as Peyton Manning was throughout his whole career, he's now had a year off. He's 35. He's got a neck injury. And I think when I was a kid, Johnny Unitas in the Chargers uniform or Joe Namath with the Rams.
Well, and you get back to that.
Montana was good with the Chiefs, but
if you have 2 number 1 quarterbacks, then you have none.
None.
So what happens? Manning struggles because his arm strength is a little less after all this surgery, whatever. And then the fans are going to start chanting for luck. Then you got to, you're paying a fortune for 2 guys at one position. I don't know.
Well, you know what? It wouldn't be too good for Manning, but I think if you do it selfishly, you pick luck, you bring Manning back, and just hope to hell that he's going to tutor luck for a year. And then, it's a cold league, I mean, when you think about Joe Montana, he should have retired from San Francisco to a parade and a statue. He might have gotten that, but it was after they traded him to Kansas City. And that's what happens in this league is, unfortunately, especially with the cap now, they say, hey, you know what, Peyton, we love you, but
it's not just the NFL. Who would have thought Bobby Orr would be on the Blackhawks? It's the same deal.
I know, and you're
Paul Pierce playing with whoever,
right.
Which could happen if they lose a couple of games in this next week.
So
you may see him traded.
I hope it's not him, though, because I have to say, I mean, he's coming back from an injury and he's rusty.
You want to see him retire.
But he does not look as old as, sometimes.
He's like 15 pounds overweight, Pierce.
Right now, but you're right. But he just, I know that he's the kind of guy that sometime during the season, he'll shed the weight and the moves will be back. He'll start, the clutch pass will be back. I think Garnett looked old 2 years ago, but he played in spurts. I think, I don't know,
Who are they going to
just
get
go
for
on.
them,
Let's
though?
just go down the line.
right, exactly. If you traded him to the Lakers, just for argument's sake, what are the Lakers going to give you? 2 first-round draft? Well, they have to give you money back, so they have to get rid of somebody who has a high salary who they don't think can play anymore. Well, who's that?
And then like Allen, they're saying that a lot of teams would like him, but the only thing he can do now is shoot, which is great. He can't dribble and pass.
Sometimes he can't even do that. When his shot isn't sinking, he's as useless as an old Kareem.
You just trading somebody. Sometimes you're better off to keep their salary slot and then try. Right, because Pierce he may still be able to play another year or two. And
that's what I think they'll do. I mean, why would you trade Allen now? Make a trade now for Allen. You're not going to get much. I mean, at the end of the year, you may be able to put him in a deal where you that $10 million slot.
Sign trade, yeah.
Maybe good for the team that's getting him.
Yeah, but at least if he was showing something, if he was leading the league right now in 3-pointers, and you say, well, Allen's carrying the team, then you say, well, I'll tell you what, we love you, Ray, but geez, we can get something for you right now. Pick a team needs a shooter.
I'd rather see Petrus in there instead of him. Petrus play a defense. He can hit the 3-pointer. At least he can move.
This is going to be a lost year for the Celtics, I think, because I'd really hate to think of this again like 1989, 1990, where we had it in our heads. We knew what the Big Three was capable of. So every time they went out there on the floor and you saw a little Larry Magic, you started thinking about, playoff series against Detroit or 84 or something. You start, I remember myself, I was conditioned to believe that they could still do it.
Well, last night they won easily against Toronto, but to me the only interesting part of the game was watching Ejuan Moore, Juwan Johnson, and Avery Bradley in there at the end, because you get to see some young guys, they got some ability, and they're in there for 5 or 6 minutes, so they're getting in a rhythm. Johnson made a couple, outside shots, but if you get in there for a minute, it's just tough to do anything.
Right, and people don't understand. When I had my 12-game packages 2 years in a row, it was 2 years before they got Garnett. I mean, I gave them up when they got Garnett and Allen because I love watching young players. That's when Allen was young, Delonte West, Jefferson, Perkins. They had all those young players that were fun to watch. And the fans will stick with them if they make the right moves.
But if you get getting off that fun to watch thing. Right now, they're not that much fun to watch. They don't, you watch Oklahoma City come in and you feel like Oklahoma City's just toying with them.
They're going to run right up and down the court. And I got to tell you, I agree with you. I think right now is the time. Play the young guys. I'd rather they just go with the young guys and see what they got, because
I always
it's
love
the
that.
only way you're going to find out. If you put the guy out there and showcase and say, hey, you know what? All right, we gave you 20. We gave you 28 minutes for the last 3 weeks, and we realize now that you're developing. We see you now as a big piece of the puzzle next year.
Well, and if you're Doc Rivers, if you sign a 5-year deal, you know that the big three aren't going to be there. So you have to be working toward the transition for the next franchise, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. All right, before this segment ends, give us the score for this weekend. Both games.
The score for this weekend, I think the Patriots 27-21. The Giants, I see that more of like a. I thought of the score earlier, but I've been kind of wavering. I think the Giants are going to put up 27 as well. I don't see San Fran scoring, so I said 27-13.
What do you think?
I'll take San Francisco 31-20 and the Patriots 38-34.
I hope you're right.
I'll take the Giants 31-17, and I'll take the Patriots. I said I'm being conservative here, 27-17, but I can see if they get in a rhythm early, it could be a lot higher than that. It could be up near 38-17.
I hope you're right, because I don't want a heart attack watching this game. I do not need to be sitting there with 3 minutes left saying, all right, they just punted. They're up by 4.
Right.
And I don't want to see Flacco start winging it around, and I'm going to have these visions of Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, anybody winging it down the field, where I get my head under my pillow saying, I'm too old for this.
It could be a blowout. The Pats could blow them out. If,
I
again,
hope you're right.
Brady has got to get into the rhythm
I
right
just
away.
think the Patriots have a different team than they had 2 years ago offensively, and that'll be the difference. Well, we'll be right back with our final segment.
CATS, the Competitive Athlete Training Zone. For more information, visit catsports.com or call 978-658-4220. CATS, where athletes train.
There's been a lot of rumors about Celtics being traded. Years ago, I heard, courtesy of my brother-in-law who went to school with Wick Grousbeck, that Grousbeck's wife said, are you kidding, trade Pierce? We sell like $10 million of Pierce shirts a year. I don't know how many they're selling. One of the big places they sell NBA jerseys, in fact, is China. They're huge NBA fans there. But I just don't see it right now. If you see the Celtics up against the young athletic teams like the Heat, Oklahoma City, the Lakers, they just can't compete.
Yeah, Pierce is a key. I mean, he came in about 15 pounds overweight. He had the heel problem. He wasn't working out much this summer. Maybe it was his attitude. He figured that then, they don't have a chance of winning the championship. When you win one, and you can't win another one. I mean, you're not coming in sky high like he has over the past 4 years. And it hurts because he's the leader of the team. Forget about Rondo. Rondo's to me, he's a nitwit out in the court run. I mean, really. I mean, he comes in with, I watched him the other day, right, in a key situation. He could have made a nice bounce pass to Bass. Instead, he tries to be fancy. Look over here and scoop it. It is the defensive player off the knee, and they ended up getting control of the ball. Every time I see that, just play the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Well, that gives us a segue into high school sports. And Melrose has a lot of potential, particularly on the boys' side, but also to a degree on the girls' side. And I was very disappointed to watch both games last week, which didn't go well, particularly the Stoneham game. Melrose has far superior talent, in my opinion, to Stoneham, but sometimes the players are too preoccupied on trying to look stylish, fancy, put on a show, whatever. If you have a layup, lay it in.
You're talking about the boys,
The
Ryan?
boys. You don't have to spin it off the glass, come up under and under, reverse layup, put the ball in the basket. And you got to be able to make free throws to save your life. Melrose missed a ton of free throws in the last minute of the game that allowed it to go into overtime. Anything can happen in overtime. I really enjoy watching the boys when they're on. They can be very unselfish. They're athletic. They obviously have a lot of talent. I talked to the Wakefield coach last week, and asked him about his team, and he said, you know, I'll tell you this. We have the most talent and the most athleticism I've ever had here, but we have the most undisciplined team I've ever had here. So you never really know what you're going to get on any given night. And sure enough, Wakefield lost to Wilmington after that, a team that Melrose murdered.
And Wakefield beat Melrose by 20, right?
Right, and his prediction came true. So, people say, what do you know about basketball? Other than playing, coaching, having a little bit of success as a player, I guess I don't know anything. But I do know if I have a chance to be successful and compete for a championship, I want to do everything I can to be successful, and I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing too many people preoccupied with, trying to look fancy on the shot, not doing what they need to do. When, get mad. I don't care. Get mad, get angry, play hard, win basketball games. If you have the talent to win just because you're so superior athletically and have good basketball skill, why jar at the officials? Why trash talk with the other team? Just beat them up and look at the scoreboard. That would be enough for me.
Yeah, I look at Melrose. I mean, you look at the Wilmington game, you look at the Wakefield game. I mean, Wakefield to me was much talented, and they end up losing to Wilmington. That's amazing. But in that game that they played against Melrose, I mean, they just outplayed us big time. But I understand what you're saying. I mean, I look at some of the players, some of the real good players on Melrose. I mean, they're so physically talented, but they don't. I mean, they take a jump shot and they bail out 5 steps when the ball's in the air.
Well, who's our favorite player by far? It's the blue-collar, lunch pail.
Gillis.
Gillis, by far. He just does what you want from a player. He's in there banging, playing hard defense, getting second opportunities. I just love the way he plays.
Well, you talk about finding your identity. I mean, they look great. I mean, they won their first 5 games. I don't know if they're 5-2 or 6-2. I think they're 6-2 now or something.
I'm not sure.
But they looked tremendous early on. They were passing the ball really well, but somehow they've lost their identity. I mean, after the Wakefield game, you don't lose to Stoneham. You do not. That team does not lose to Stoneham. I know they lost Perot. I don't know if he's out for the season, and he was a big plus down low. He's so quick and rebounded.
High energy player.
But someone like Jones, right? He's a good player.
Solid player.
But against Wakefield, he was never in the basket. He's their best rebounder, him and Gillis. He should have been under the basket rebounding. They'd take a shot, a 3-point shot, and if Gillis was in foul trouble, so he was sitting out a lot, no one was under the boards. Jones is an excellent rebounder. You talk about knowing your identity. In that case, standing out at the 3-point line would.
I read a book recently with a funny title. It's called Everyone Hates a Ball Hog But Loves a Scorer by a guy named Corin Godwin, who was the all-time leading scorer at University of North Florida and had a tryout with the Orlando Magic. And he basically said, why am I a scorer? All I figured is I only get 4 or 5 points a quarter or period, and I got 20 points. I make an open shot, cut to an open spot, get to the line, get a putback. That's 4 or 5 points a period easy. So why, bang the boards, get a second chance opportunity, go to the line. As an older person, you have a finite basketball mortality. You don't play basketball your whole life. So when you're young and you have the gift of health and athleticism and skill, maximize it. You can't look back and say, well, if I'd only done this and I'd only done that. It's just a shame.
Well, what happened to them is they had the great start, and they got too comfortable, too confident. They stopped playing as a team. You could see it. I mean, Wilmington, they got it back, but again, losing to Stoneham, I didn't see the game, but losing that game and being destroyed by Wakefield and get totally dominated.
Well, you get attention, so people start to come. Scouts start to come, maybe some college coaches. Then all of a sudden, well, it's about the numbers I'm putting up. I didn't get enough shots. I didn't get enough touches.
And they don't go, you're right.
And then it starts to all fall apart on you.
And they don't go down low to Gillis enough. He was battling against Wakefield. They didn't even look for him down low. I mean, sometimes players want to get their points. They think 3 points, shots, you can get back in the game when you get behind. But there's just so much more they can do to be
The part of the
successful.
game that's gone is the intermediate jumper. It's
and
gone.
And that's where Adams and Hirschfeld should be the best. They should be at their best there in the intermediate game. I mean, they should be able to, they're so athletic, they get in the lane, and they don't use it. They either take a three-point shot or they go all the way in. When do you see them pull up for a jump shot? I mean, if they're going to play college basketball, they've got to have that shot. They've got to have that shot from 10, 12 feet. But.
Well, as for the girls, I don't even know what to say. They really look pretty good. 3 games in a row. They had a 3-game winning streak. They played the best basketball we've seen all year, the first period over at Stoneham with a 19-12 lead. Took a lead into halftime, came out 2 quick hoops, go up 31-23, and then they got 3 points in the last 15 minutes of the game. It's kind of stunning. And I don't think it's lack of effort. People are trying, but I think sometimes it's you're trying really hard, but you're not concentrating. You're not always mentally where you need to be. And it isn't one player. I think that the team is hungry for success, and maybe they're trying too hard at times.
Well, what happened, too, in that game, Brooke Bell got called for charge twice, and I know one of them was a horrendous call, and she got aggravated, but she really played harder after that. She was going in for rebounds. I mean, nothing went right. It's kind of a shame. Leah Lamoni didn't hit a shot.
Right.
I mean, it's not a knock on anyone. Some games you're hitting your shot. I mean, Leah Lamoni during this streak has been hitting a shot.
Right.
And, I mean, that's been a plus.
But what do you learn? Growing up playing basketball, you learn that if you're not getting your shot to drop, then you've got to
do other things.
You do other things, and you've got to be able to get the ball to the basket. You make better passes. You make better cuts to get easier shots. And Stoneham played hard. They did some good things. Their point guard was pretty good. Sam Trant was pretty good. But it was a very winnable game, and it's frustrating to see the girls working hard but not having the kind of success we think they should have.
Yeah, I talked to some of the players after that game. I says, wow. I says, you win 3 in a row. You play that first period. You look great. Second half, you come out, you get the first 2 baskets, and then all of a sudden everything goes bad. But what I'm hoping is, I mean, they just forget about that and they come back and play like they did in the 3-game winning streak and in the first period. I mean, they have confidence. You could see it in their eyes that they feel more confident about themselves. I'm just hoping it's a fluke run. I can't figure it out myself.
Right. We always tell our players that you have to know what you are, what your skills are, and for example, if you're not really a terrific offensive player, but you're really a good defender and rebounder, then you have to focus on that. Don't worry about shot selection. Pass the ball off to somebody else who's a scorer. And similarly, if you're a terrific scorer, then you've got to find a way to get to the basket. You've got to find a way to get open so you can get the ball past you where you can score.
But right. You look at the last 4 games, though, Ron, I'm really happy about where they've come to. I mean, there's still a ways to go, and I know they can get there. But, you have to be happy. I mean, Shannon Leif is playing with a lot more confidence. I mean, Brooke Bell is playing like an all-star.
Well, and it's unfortunate
Jenny,
Sydney got hurt, and that set her back.
Yeah, I talked to her at our game. She was at our game last night, and she said she's feeling real good, and she wants to get back in there all the time, and she's ready to go. So, I mean, I believe she was their leading scorer before she got hurt. She's a very good all-around player, and if they all mesh well together, Rachel Johnson's, at least she's been a factor out there with Kayla now up front, and Jenny McGee's got to keep improving, and Leah.
There's a lot of people who are capable, and they have to know who they are as a player and what they can bring to the team. Sometimes most people are not complete all-around players. Most of us, you can handle the ball, shoot, play defense. You might not be a great rebounder, or you're a great rebounder and good defender, can't handle the ball. Well, don't do that. So I'm looking for a good effort tomorrow against Watertown. Watertown's got some, I think they're sisters.
Capola?
I think there's 2 Capolas now.
Oh, really? What's the other one, a freshman?
Yeah, so they've got, I think, sisters who are guards, who are high-scoring, fancy Dan players.
Well, they should put Brooke on here. I know Shannon did a good job on it last year. Shannon covered it last year for one of the games. But Brooke, I think, would shut her down. I mean, Mel, that's the key game of the season right there tomorrow night. They got to come out and beat Watertown, make a statement, and they're going to go on from there. And I believe, if they have a great game against Watertown, they're going to win most of their games the rest of the year. This is the big game here.
Well, they've had some tough early games on the schedule. This is a key game, and we're looking forward to it. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph Labella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.